Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and I'm with estate agency royalty, Peter Knight. Peter, thanks for coming down to London to see me. And what I'd like to do is talk about the Property Academy's Best Estate Agent Guide, how it is measured, judged, the good things, the bad things, your home mover survey, and basically talk to you about what's happening in UK estate and letting agency and what we can do to help the boys and girls out there in estate agency land with what you've found out from what you've done. So, for those people that have been living in a cave, what is the best estate agent guide?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Chris.
No,
it's great to be here. So it's now our third year of doing the Best Estate Agent Guide, and I actually remember Ian Kennedy at Rightmove saying to me when we first launched the initiative, he said, "Penny, this will take you 3 years to get it right." And crikey, he was bang on. It has taken us 3 years to evolve it and to move it to where I'm now really happy about it, and I hope that your viewers and everybody else in the industry will be too. So what we've done is we've assessed every single listing that has appeared on Rightmove over a 6 to 8 month period. So it's about 1 million plus listings that are on Rightmove at any point in time. We then measure their performance on what we call on the same patch. So if you take Grantham, and there are a number of estate agencies in Grantham, we don't take Grantham as a patch. We take each estate agency branch and measure their patch by a methodology, which is wherever they've listed a property, whether it's to sell or to let, we do that separately, that's their patch. So if you had an office, let's say in Grantham, that covered a wider area, their listings would be compared against a wider patch. If you had a branch that was covering a smaller area, because it's part of a network of 3 or 4 in the same proximity, their patch is a narrower patch. And we measure the performance of those listings over a 6 to 8 month period, basically to ask, did they sell or let, yes or no? How well were they marketed? We measure that by the number of property views, the number of click-throughs, the photographs, floor plans, and things like that. And then it's over 3 billion pieces of data in total.
Sounds like a big spreadsheet.
So it's a rather large spreadsheet. And it enables us to therefore determine which are the best performing branches. From that stage, we then aggregate the branch scores to create and find the top agencies.
How many measures have you got in there?
In total, there's almost 50 measurements. 32 of them are on the mystery shop, and then there's 18 measurements approximately on the data. And this exercise is done, Chris, completely free of charge. Okay, Rightmove account managers will be able to share all of the findings in terms of the data assessment for free with all of their members, and we will have the answers to the mystery shop, which we carry out as well. That's another part of it, and so that estate agents can find out how they've done, where they can improve, because we can all improve, let's be blunt here, and also, of course, have the opportunity to congratulate their team members where they've done an exceptional job. And there have been many examples of agents delivering an exceptional performance, and it's those that have ended up winning a Best Estate Agent Guide award.
So 17 or 18 Rightmove data points.
Yes.
Did everybody? Okay, so what did you judge them? What were those 17 measurements, those metrics?
Okay, so the principal ones I mentioned were things like, did it sell? Yes or no? Did it let? Yes or no? Did it come back onto the market? In other words, did it fall through? How long was it marketed for? And during that period of time, how many page views did it get on Rightmove? How many click-throughs did it get? We know from consumers and all our research, and all of our data assessment is based on the research that we've done into what consumers feel is important about selecting an estate agent. And they tell us that one of the most important, there's 2 main things, but the number 1 and 2 things are the quality of the marketing of their property,
Okay.
and
Which can be measured in the click-through rates and things like
absolutely, and also the numbers of photographs and floor plans and things like that as well, which also have a bearing on the click-through rate. And of course, that also has a bearing in terms of its positioning in the market at the correct point in terms of pricing. Because if it's underpriced or overpriced, it will have an impact in terms of numbers of views and so on. And then we have, for the mystery shop, as I mentioned, we have 32 different things that we measure.
So what did the mystery shop exactly look like?
So there's 4 things that we sought to identify based on our home moving trend survey.
You've been doing those home moving trends for quite a while
10
now.
years.
They're wonderful if you
Thank
don't
you.
mind me
Well,
saying.
that's very kind. And this year we're actually publishing a summary of the 10 years combined insights and the changes over the 10 years. And we've actually engaged with a professional research company to assist us in this analysis, because it's pretty, we assess 5,000 sellers, 5,000 landlords and 5,000 tenants each year. So we've got well over 100,000
Well, I've got
people.
I've got back copies that I look at, and it's amazing how we don't have to give too much away, but how it has not much has changed, but certain things have slightly evolved,
definitely,
haven't
absolutely.
they?
But
And
definitely
it's amazing.
It is, and I mean, you're right, there are certain principles that remain constant. We still measure them though, and then there are other things which vary, and I'm afraid one of the things, we may touch on it later, one of the things that's varied, perhaps the biggest change, has been fee levels that have been charged, but that's perhaps for a bit later. But what people tell us is marketing is really important, because that they feel leads to them getting the result that they want, which I think is a reasonable conclusion. And the second thing that they tell us that's important to them is whether they can trust the agent or not. And if you like, do they like them and trust them? Now, the issue we had was, if I asked somebody, how do you measure likability or trust? The chances are that they wouldn't be able to tell me.
It isn't a number, is it?
It's not. And we wanted to make this very much based on data rather than a subjective opinion. So what we drilled it down to, when we asked other questions of these people who are actively selling or letting their property, we drilled it down to 4 key things that make up together likability and trust. And that's professionalism and courtesy, listening and understanding, their knowledge and information, how smart they are, and their responsiveness. And those were the 4 ingredients that, through our surveys, we were able to identify added up towards likability and trustworthiness. And so, in our mystery shops, we set a series of questions that were yes, no answers. So I'll give you an example. Responsiveness, let's just take that one, it's really simple. Was the phone answered, yes or no? Okay. Was the email answered?
So how many phone calls and emails did every agent get then?
Well, there's 20,000 in total that we carried out. Each agent received 1 call per branch for sales, 1 call per branch for lettings, 1 web inquiry for sales, and 1 web inquiry for lettings.
And was that on the demand side or the supply side? Demand as in buyer or tenant, or was that a landlord or vendor?
Principally, it was done as a buyer and as a potential tenant.
Okay.
You'll know from previous conversations, Chris, my view that the customer is 4-dimensional, and I do not believe that customers should be treated differently, because they're coming to an agent as a tenant as opposed to as a landlord. They could be one and the same. They often are one. They often are. Buyers are often sellers, and vice versa. And what was staggering, once again, and I've got these stats, as I said, for you, hot off the press. We actually found that some quite shocking responses, I'm afraid. Sales calls, 14% went unanswered.
14%?
14% of calls. All these calls were made during business hours, Monday to Friday.
That's nearly 1 in 6.
I know. On the lettings side, it was the same. So actually, it's 15% went unanswered. In terms of web inquiries, 27% on sales, so over a quarter, were not answered within a day.
Well, that's better than last year.
It is a bit better, although on lettings, it is better than last year, because 52% went unanswered last year. On lettings, it's 35%. So 1 in 4 people inquiring as a... and here's the interesting thing. When it came to the calls, although our mystery shoppers posed as buyers, they also, if somebody had asked them, they also had a property potentially to sell. In other words, their scripts,
Yes.
it allowed for the conversation, but it was down to the agent to ask the question rather than for it to just be volunteered.
You're telling me that the buyers are ringing up, they potentially had a property to sell, you're going to announce the number at EA Masters on the number that weren't asked.
Yeah. So
I mean, you've told me in private, so that number
Yeah.
is amazing.
it is, and look, there's another number that I'm happy to share with you, Chris. So not only did the buyers pose as potential sellers as well, and therefore there was the opportunity for the agent to ask the question to say, have you got a property to sell? Would you like a property to sell? And as I said, we're going to share that at the EA Masters. But one stat I will share you with is they were inquiring about specific individual properties.
Yes.
Okay? And they were waiting to be asked to view the property. And had they done so, they would have actually made an appointment and then subsequently, would have cancelled it, and therefore the agent's time was wasted. What if I told you that 27% this is on sales calls, 27% of the people inquiring about a property were not even asked if they would like to view it?
Why? Let's be all frank here. There's a lot of people complaining about Rightmove at the moment and their costs, and I've gone on record to say I think they're good value for money.
Mm-hmm.
But if agents aren't actually answering phone calls, B, even asking for a free valuation, which the number amazed me, and that you'll be telling them at the EA Masters, and then not even ask for a basic viewing, no wonder they're not doing very well.
Well, let's put it into context. The best ones do all of those things exceptionally well, okay?
But this is
the
basic stuff,
Well, it
Peter.
is, and this is what I keep saying to people, when they ask me, what have you got to do to win an award? The answer is very simple. Do the ordinary things extraordinarily well, right? Just do the basics brilliantly well. And by the way, the basics are good for the customer. They're also good for the agent. The customer is wanting to be looked after. They want a service.
Why do you think agents? I mean, this is page one stuff of a estate agency.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think we as an industry are not very good at this? I'm not talking about the best. I'm just talking about the average vanilla in the middle.
So I think it's a combination of two or three things. So number one, I think that we employ people, quite frankly, who are not fit for purpose in this industry, in too many cases. And I think that sometimes the culture that we create for those people around their methods of remuneration and so on do not actually foster good service. They actually cultivate a climate sometimes of immediacy, and if somebody is not prepared to transact straight away, they're dismissed on the basis of being time wasters, tire kickers and all the above. So that's the first key area. The second area is a lack of proper systems and process. And those two things combined add up to massive variations in service. So there are certain brands with more than one branch, some with a substantial number, where the service from one branch is quite extraordinarily brilliant, right, and best in class in every respect. But you call another branch, and it's at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and a third somewhere in the middle. Now, the very best firms, the very, very best, and I have to say, one of the things that's come out of our analysis, Chris, is a very simple snapshot is this: the bigger the firm gets, on average, the poorer its average performance.
Bigger the branch or bigger the network?
Sorry, the bigger the network. So if I added up all the scores of the single branch businesses and averaged them out, they would score better overall than what we call a small size band. That's 2 to 5. The 2 to 5s, the smalls, would perform better than the mediums. That's 6 to 20. And the mediums would perform better than the large, which is 21 plus. And this has been consistent across the years that we've been doing this assessment, that the very, very best businesses tend to be the single branch businesses or the small estate agents, the independent estate agents, if you like. Now, there are exceptions, and you do get some branches within a big corporate who have done exceptionally well and deliver a phenomenal service. But I'm afraid as a general rule of thumb, the bigger the business gets, the poorer its average performance.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's the difference between ownership and proper engagement. And ultimately, the people that own and run a business have a different level of commitment to those that are just employed in the business.
Do you think, apart from the diamonds in the coal of the big boys, do you think that those bigger firms could offer us as good a service as the one-man bands?
I do, because I think ultimately that's down to systems and processes, and in fact they have more resources. I mean, they should be able to manage these processes, but I fear that perhaps their drivers are not so much a service driver, it's a commercial driver.
Okay. Do you think we're too transactional as an industry and not as opposed to building relationships for the long term?
Well, I do, on the basis that if you look at what many estate agents, so-called traditional estate agents, market themselves as premium service, we provide a professional premium service. You hear this sort of statement a lot. Okay, fine, that sounds right. What does it actually constitute? And to my mind, things like answering the phone during working hours and responding to an email inquiry within 24 hours, I don't think that's hardly premium. It is, you say, it's page one estate agency. And in far too many cases, it's just not being delivered on. However, let me just set the balance right. Those that do, right, and there are many examples, we've identified the top 3%, broadly speaking, about 500 approximately agencies in sales and in lettings that are the absolute best across the performance and the customer service. So it's not some sort of smoke-filled room with a bunch of people sitting around deciding who's going to win this year. It's based on a proper assessment of the marketplace with every single branch and every single listing considered.
And you said that the Rightmove account manager can show the person the details of how the stats were worked out. And do you say they have access to the mystery shops?
Yes, after the EA Masters, we will be releasing all the information on the mystery shops.
That's quite brave thing.
So, well, what we can't do is we can't release anything which would identify an individual. So we're not going to share the time that the call was made or the day it was made, because that would, under a GDPR restriction, that would identify. No one's opted in for this.
Yes.
Okay. So, but what we will give is the scores in terms of saying to them, okay, you answer the phone, yes or no. Here's then what happened in terms of it. Because our goal is to help estate agents to fulfil their potential. That's our purpose, is to help people to fulfil their potential. And a big reason why we set this up, and a massive driver for Rightmove too, was to assist agents in raising the standards of the service that they deliver to the consumer. So we want to share this information with people so that they can see for themselves how they did. And have an opportunity to improve on it for next year.
How do you feel about the naysayers that basically deride what you're trying to do? I mean, let's be frank, you're running a business, and if someone wins, they're in the guide. They don't have to pay to be in the guide, but if they want to the stickers and the marketing behind it, they have to pay. How do you feel about those naysayers and doom mongers?
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be critics, and there's always, particularly those who hide behind fictitious pseudonyms and so on. And I don't mind engaging with anybody on a face-to-face basis or over the phone. And I've had many conversations. And some of the criticisms have been really helpful. We have evolved things over the 3 years.
So what's happened?
Thanks for the feedback. Well, the first year we got it wrong in terms of, we feel got it wrong in terms of the mystery shop was 50% of the score. Now it's only 20% of the score. We didn't include market share as a criteria. We do now. It's not as important a criteria to the consumer as it is to an agent who owns a business, but it is a factor, so we include it. We've taken on board a lot of other points. We've revised the whole mystery shop process to make it much. We used to have a question. The shoppers used to be asked, "How did the agent make you feel?" which we felt was too subjective with the numbers that we have. So we've eliminated anything that could be subjective. So we've taken on board a lot of these comments. And look, I've said on record, probably to you before, I'm not saying we've got it 100% right, and I accept that.
Okay.
But we will not stop striving for 100%. And my guess is that year one we've got it 80-something% right. I now believe we've got it 90-something% right, and we will continue to push for it. But look, you're going to get your critics. There are going to be those who say it's just a money-making exercise. There are, and I often reply to them. I go, so, do you charge for your estate agency services? We're in business, right? And my business is about helping people to fulfil their potential. The big thing is, though, about my business is you don't have to subscribe to it. You don't have to become a member of the Property Academy. You don't have to buy a Best Estate Agent Guide license. You don't have to come to the EA Masters. It's your choice.
You should see the amount of people that were saying you have to buy a certain Rightmove subscription on a certain level and things like that.
Well, that's why we published the winners. You see, one of the things that, again, the critics said, "Oh, it's you only give awards to people who buy tickets." Well, actually, we announced the winners, not the shortlist. We've announced the winners before the tickets even went on sale, and that was as a direct response to agents saying to us, "Look, the surprise on the day is nice if you've won, but actually, if you brought your team." And you've come all the way to London and you've had a great day, it's expensive, you had a great day out there, and then you don't win.
But then they're going to turn around to you and say, well, you're only doing that so you can sell tickets to...
You can't win, can you?
You can't win.
And so, luckily, we set out every year, and therefore we don't actually need to market in an aggressive manner. We know that people will come because we've been doing this for 20 years. It's only 3 years it's been the EA Masters. Prior to that, of course, it was the Estate Agency of the Year Awards. So, we've got a long record, if you like, of delivering, and we're told we deliver the best events. This year, again, we've sought to raise the bar in every single dimension, and the quality of the speakers and the workbooks that we're going to be providing and the insight that we're going to share, we think will be second to none. But of course, people will be the judge of that. Oh, and by the way, we will be live streaming it as well for free. So, if they don't want to buy a ticket to the event, they can watch it via the Rightmove Hub for free, right? So this whole sort of criticism, it amuses me. It used to frustrate me. Now it amuses me because every time someone comes in with a criticism, we've taken them all on board and dealt with it. Because yes, I am in business. Ultimately, if I don't have a profit, I can't sustain this activity. But my driver and purpose for setting up these awards in the first place was to redress the balance. The media has been so critical of estate agents for so many years, and it was in response to that I first set up the first awards to basically say, you know what, there are some really good estate agents out there, and they don't get recognised and they don't get acknowledged for what they do. And I set up the awards principally to redress that balance. And Chris, for the first 5 years, we lost money on it, a lot of money on the awards. I almost pulled it. I actually thought, you know what, I've had a go, but it was financially, it was a significant amount of money that we lost. But we persevered with it because we knew it was the right thing to do.